Hi guys, and welcome back to the new year. Anyway, I hope you did have a great Christmas and an awesome new year and spent it with people you want to be with, whether you want to or not. Anyway, we're going to carry on with the MFM hard drive emulator because the extras turned up. So we can go through and finish that. And the other thing is the chips for the Dragon 32 turned up as well. And this is one of the kits off eBay for building a Dragon 32. You can get the 64 kit, and I thought, well, for the few extra chips and that, I don't need them. And I've got others here if I need them anyway for the RAM and so forth. But anyway, this is a full set of ROMs, CPU, video, and I/O controllers and that for the Dragon 32. So that's what I have here. So those came in as well. And from one of our subscribers and one of my mates down south, Stephen, we have this to look at. Unfortunately, Stephen tried to do the cartridge slot replacement, and after he did it, he's had problems with it. This is another one we can look at as well. So that'll be another one coming up on the channel. And as I say, there'll be the Dragon 32, change the chips and that, and see how we go. And finish off this MFM hard drive emulator. Alright guys, so grab yourself a drink. Something to snack on if you're not sick of snacking by now. And a comfy seat. And let's get on with it. Guys, so this is the box with the bits. I've opened it up. I have no idea why these companies do this. They charge you quite a lot in freight, and you get this enormous big box. You open it up, and what do we have inside? I mean, why? When you can, from China, they can send you stuff for about $6, $7, and you get it in a week or two. And it's in a way smaller packet than this is. But these guys want to charge you about $30 to chuck it in here and send it to you, and it still takes a couple of weeks to get it here. I don't know. That's why a lot of it, unless I have to, that is why I don't really buy a lot of stuff from Mouser and DigiKey. I just find the freight is so expensive for what you're buying. But anyway guys, these will be the a few caps and a few resistors I was short of on that kit. So I think we will go through and finish this off. I'll sort out the ones I need. I'll take them off my sheet here, put them aside, and we'll go through, finish this off. And then I think on that we have the transistors, the IC, and the DC to DC converter to put on, and the super caps. And then the socket for the beagle bones to go on, and then we have to flash the beagle bone too. So hopefully, I'm not sure how much we'll get done in this part, but I might get this to where the board is completely built, and I think maybe a part 3 to do with the programming, putting it in, testing it, and then trying it on a hard drive. That would be quite cool, I think, as the third part. I'll just see how we go with the rest of this for now, but to my way of thinking, that would be probably a lot better, because it would make this far too long, or I'll have to cut too much out. Yeah, if you think there's just too much in the middle of this and you think some of the stuff should be taken out, let me know in the comments below, guys. You know, just jump in there and tell me what you think. If there's anything you want to see that I've had on the channel and you want me to do more on it, or an update on it, or something like that, let me know. There are a few of the others that are on the back burner at the moment, which is the Bondwell. And I've had a couple of emails from some guys about the ROM chip and the floppy disks. The ROMs I have done, I haven't uploaded them because I wanted to get a copy of the floppy disks to put it to the Internet Archive, as well as I wanted to use, you can do with a unit, which I do have, backup hard drive with it. And I sort of thought that would be really nice if I could do an image of that, the floppy disks and the ROM, and put them on the Internet Archive. Then they're there for anybody. So if somebody wanted something to set up a drive, they could dump the image down and it'd be done. So I thought that'd be really, really nice. So as I was saying, I have got the ROMs there. I want to try and get a decent board or find my SCSI card to do the discs. And just in case those discs are flaky, I want to back up that hard drive. And that's why I say that's why I want to do it. Anyway, guys, it's enough about that. But there's that sort of stuff that needs to be done. There's the Black Mac, which we've got to finish up on the SCSI side of things. And a few other bits and pieces too. There's lots of other things I've got to do. I've got to go in and do there's some more Spectra videos I've got to tidy up. I do have some 605s that are in parts. They're in containers at the moment that I have to reassemble because I think it's the power supplies that were faulty in those. So lots of little things to do. And I may even look at with those as designing and changing out the power supply they used, because they just took AC 9 and AC 18 volts, took it inside and used the regulator internally to drop it down to the plus and the minus 5 volts and the 12 volts DC. And I think that power supply I got for the Dragon 32 would probably be ideal for those. I'd just have to look at the draw currents. Failing that, we could go the next model up from that, which is physically the same size. It was just slightly more current on it. And we could go to one of those for around the same money. And then we could just put in a standard connector on the side, which is your 3-pin standard power connector, and we could run them through that. We don't have to bother with the weird power pack that the Spectra videos use. And that way I can also get back a Spectra video power pack that I can use on a machine that doesn't have one, and the boxes can be run off their own power supplies. Anyway, it's food for thought and something I've been thinking on to get some of these machines up and running that are missing their main power supplies. Anyway, we will carry on and I will sort these out into their piles and we'll come back to it. Alright, see you shortly. Okay guys, so I got the board in the helping hands. These are the extra components that I was missing, with the resistors and the caps. Pop those in the board and I'll do the resistors and the caps, solder them all up, and then we'll look at the next lot of parts to go in. Alrighty, so I'll get ahead and do that. Bit of a muck up there, guys. So I just put two of them in the wrong holes. So I was sitting, no, there's got to be more than that, and yeah, I put the wrong ones in. Just swap them around. Okay, so there we go. We've got the boards all finished. All those passive components are in there now, and they're all pretty good. As I said, there's probably the one or so earlier ones that mightn't be completely flat, but I think it's all right. So yeah. So anyway, I will turn that light away. So it's not right in my face. So we'll carry on, and we will put the... I'm wondering if we should drop some sockets into this, just in case we have an issue with an IC or so that plugs into this. So I'm just wondering if maybe we should do that, and that way they'll plug in components and we can change them if we need to, if they go faulty. I think that might be a plan. I'll be back to you shortly. I'll just grab some sockets to go into the places on the motherboard. Okay, so here we got the sockets. So this is the 8-pin for the ROM. Now, just going to make sure we got the notch at the right end. Now these I'll probably tack them in one at a time because they are a little bit more fiddly than the others, and I'll use a slightly bigger solder to do these with. I'm sorry guys, I'm just bringing the light round so I can see what I'm soldering underneath. Okay, I'm just going to have a quick look to make sure they're all sitting in okay. Yeah, they all look fine. Okay, so I'll carry on and solder those all in. And I think guys, I need to look at some sort of fume extractor too. I don't have one, and I'm sort of thinking I need to look at making something up with a fan. I've got plenty of 80 mils floating around here from out of PCs that I've stripped down over time, and I'm still thinking maybe I should just use one of those and make myself an extractor unit. I'm just touching up the legs of the ones I clipped off that I haven't touched up yet, so okay, I think that's pretty much got it all. I'll just have a look at it under the magnifying glass just to make sure I'm happy with it. That all looks good. I think it just needs a decent clean, which I might do that now at this time before I put any more of the parts on it. So I'll just do that, I think. Right, just one final check with it cleaned. Yeah, that looks fine. Just making sure there was no shorts or anything on it. So that all looks fine to me. I'll put this back over again. Right. And so now we'll look at the next bits to go in here. So we've put all the sockets on. So now what we'll need to do, so we've looked at putting that one in, those 4 in, and those 2 in. So we'll leave the DC to DC for now. So we've got a couple of big caps to go in here. Oh no, they've gone. So no, we haven't got that and that. So what do we got? The LED can go in last. So be these four. Right, which four was it? These four. 2, 4, 5. These 5 transistors to go in will be next. Okay, so these are the 5 transistors that are going to go in. And they are just pin for pin as shown on the silk screen on the top of the board. So just make sure you put them in the same way around. The flat edge to the front and the rounded edge to the back as shown. Alright, so those should be okay to there. I don't want to put them too far down because I want a little bit of airflow underneath them. Not that they're going to get overly hot, but I would just like them to have a little bit of airflow around the legs just in case they do get a little warm. Let's have a quick look at those. Yep, they all look good. Right, so we've got just about everything on. The only thing we haven't got on now are the header pins and the DC to DC converter. So I think I will dig out all the header pins first, and then we'll go through and put all those on, and the super caps, and then we'll be to the point of putting the ICs in here. Now we could do a burn-in test, which is highly recommended by a lot of people who make kits and things like that, is that do a burn-in test first. I know these boards are fine and that they are working because there are other people that have built them and they work fine. So we don't really need to do a burn-in test, but we can do. I'll see how I feel about it. I'm pretty confident on the soldering and there's no bridges or anything like that. So I'm quite happy with just putting the rest of the components in and firing it up. And that's one reason why I wanted to socket all the main ICs, just to make sure. Alright, so I will dig out all the header connectors for this, come back and we will get on with it. And I think then just a bit of a overview of the board, and then we'll look at, in part 3, programming the beagle bone, putting it on here and firing it up. Alright, I'll be back shortly. Right, so I've got all my header connectors here. These ones are the blue shrouded ones are for the hard drive connectors, and that's where the cables will plug on that'll go to the hard drives. And they're done this way because they're keyed. And the nice thing, when you get these, they have that little hole in the middle. Now if you look down this side of them, there's a little arrow. That means pin 1. So on your circuit board where there's a pin 1, that arrow points to the pin 1, so it will go the way with the notch pointing out to the side where pin 1 is. The same with the bigger 34 pin ones, they're the same, they have the arrow on them, the notch pointing to pin 1. This is the power supply connector, and when you look at them you think, oh, how's it going to fit, because it doesn't look like it does fit on the board. But these two front lugs, the plastic ones, have actually got a little hook on them. They're like a little L. Let's see if I can get you a closer look at them. You can see that there, that looks like a little bit of an L. Well, that hook's underneath the board to hold the front down. So when these go in, you put the front in on an angle. So you're putting them in on an angle, not flat. So those two front hooks go under, then you rock it back and you just line up the back holes, and just a little bit of movement and that'll pop in. And that sits there, and that just stops it from pulling out. So when you're putting a power plug in, it's not forcing it on the pins at the back all the time and doesn't break them. Okay, so that's what that is. I'll just leave that in there for now. But I'll put these little single and double non-shroudeds in first, because these are going to be the most fiddly to do. And then I'll put those three in. And I don't think you need me telling you about it, doing it. I'll just go ahead and do it. And then we'll get to the end and carry on from there. Right, so those look good. They don't look like there's any bridges or anything there. So I'll give that a clean up. And then the only thing left to do is the super caps and the DC to DC converter. Right, that seems to be done. Now, what do we need to do now? So we've got all those, so I'll mark all those off. Just getting a bit heavier now, so the helping hand's sort of not sitting where it should be sitting. So we've got that, we've got those three. And header pin, one, we've got that. Got that one, J jumper, got that one, got that one, got that one, the power connector, got that one, that one. So we've got all of those in there, so that looks like, I haven't ticked off the, done those ones. I haven't ticked off the ICs because they're not installed yet. I've just put the sockets in them. So what I'll do is I will now put in the super caps, and then I'll put the DC to DC converter in it. And I'll just go over the DC to DC converter for you, because it is not 100% on what the pinout is, so I can show you that anyway. And this is what I was saying, this is why you got to, because they are so tall. So if we had put one of these in like standard, go in the hole, thank you. You can see the difference in height. That's it standing straight up, that's it lying over. So what we can do is we can whack a dollop of hot glue under these when we've soldered them in. We can just raise them up, dollop of hot glue, push them down, and they'll sit on the board, and they won't move around, so they can't puncture any holes in them. So and just make sure you've got your polarity the right way around for them as well, because the minus is on these, the minus is on that side. It has a little white stripe on one side of the circles. The other way to tell with a lot of electrolytics, with schematics and that, and screen prints on the boards, is the square hole tends to be the positive. So not always, it just depends on the schematics you're looking at, but most of the time the square hole tends to be positive. But just double check and make sure yours is the right way around in the polarity on the board. And the other thing to note is on these boards there are two sets of holes for the capacitors, and that's just for the type of capacitor you're putting in, whether you're putting in the long ones or the short ones. So you can just work around where you want them, position them to keep them away from the pins that come through where the beagle bone's going to fit on the back here, because that goes on this side as well. That plugs into this side, so that the network connector and that is up on the backs or the top, and the beagle bone actually sits on the bottom. Right, it's got those 5 in, so I'm going to move this around and put it on the other side so it gives me a little bit better view at soldering these. I'm just going to move me light around so I can see a bit better. I'm sorry if that bleeds out the camera, guys. It's just that I need it to see underneath here. I need to sort the lighting out in here a bit better, which I'll do later on this year at some stage maybe. I just see what I can do to try and make it a little bit better lighting for this. Right, that's those done. Now, a few of you guys might be saying, but why am I struggling with this little helping hand where I could use my big desk clamp that I've got? That's the problem. It's big. Until I sort myself out a bigger work area later on, I can't put it on the bench. It's just physically too big, and it gets in the way of everything else. So I'm thinking at this stage that the little one, I'll just fight with it and use it as it is, and I'll go from there. So that'll do me for now. Right, so all of those are on, and the thing is that's left is this DC to DC converter. And so this is the unit here, tiny guys, really tiny. But this is the unit. I'll try and get you some more light on the subject. Don't know if this is going to make life any better or worse, but this is what it is. They're just a tiny unit, and they're 5 pins, but when you look at them, they don't really have any markings on them pin for pin. So I've downloaded the PDF for these units that we're using. This may not be your unit, so just be aware of that, guys. But this is the unit we use, and I'll put the PDF up on the up here on the desktop for you so you can see which is pin 1. And it's pretty simple. It's looking at the front of the unit. If I'm holding it looking towards it, if I'm looking towards the front here, pin 1 is on this side, pin 5 is on this side. So when you look at the board is actually marked. No, it's not actually. So I'm pretty sure it was marked pin 1 to 5. Or was that underneath? Oh. No, it's not. So we've got that one, and that one. So those 3 And that one goes over to here. There. The square hole generally dictates pin 1. So if I go off my own advice, then if that's pin 1, it'll go this way on the board. And you can lie it down if you want to. You just bend the pins, and you can solder it in with the pins bent. Or you can put a socket, get a socket with bent pins, put that in. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure there. They are fairly short. But yeah, you could always bend them over. There's nothing stopping you. It's like these pins are being bent and then soldered in. So they've done it that way to stand up straight. Why they didn't just leave them straight through, I have no idea. But yeah, I'd say that's 1 to 5, so we'd go that way. So if I take that gently, quite hard pins, don't want to break anything. They're actually quite a hard pin in here. I mean, the other thing you could do is probably desolder it and just solder in some pins yourself. But I might just solder that in as is and not bend it over. Or I got to find those pair of pliers, because that's the other thing I can do is just take these and bend these so that they're a bit straighter. I just don't want the pins to all break, because by bending them you can make them soft after a bit. Right, so that's got them straighter. We'll pop it down through there, and that looks a lot better sitting that way on there than the other way. So I just gently bend them down, and what I might do, because there's some ices on the back, I might raise that up a little bit. I might stick a little bit of double-sided tape under it. Put a little bit of this under there just to hold it up off the board, because it's got those ICs on the back, and I don't really want those overheating for any reason. So if I pop that on there and then pop that in there, it holds it off the board a little bit, and it's enough of those pins to be soldered in. So I think I'll go that way, and that just gives me a bit of room under it. And if I want to, I can just pick that piece out and put a little bit of hot glue under there to hold that in place as well. So I'll just leave that there. Let's get me soldering iron and some flux. Okay guys, so that's soldered in now. I did have a issue with it. Sorry I didn't have the camera running at the time, but these are so close together, these pinholes for this inverter. Zoom you in. Right, so these header pins here, for these are so close together. I actually had a bridge between pin 1 and pin 2, between these two here, between those two, and it was giving me a connection between the two. Now none of these pins are connected to each other, so I knew there was definitely something going on. So I had a look through the microscope and I saw there was a bridge between the two, and it looked like it was a trace on the board, and I thought, So that's why I moved around stuff on the desk, because I grabbed out another one of these boards, and I had a look under the microscope on another one of these boards, and they're not connected. I even used the multimeter on continuity mode, and they're not connected. So that's how I knew I had a bridge. So I had to muck around, and I used some braid to try and pull the solder off, and in the end there was just a little bit still connecting them. I couldn't get it out, so I just used a screwdriver. I just heated up the one pin and just slid this through the center, and it actually parted them. So that was good. And then I just checked it and made sure there's no continuity, which there isn't. And then I just came from one side and touched up the pin, and then came from the other side and touched up the other pin to make sure they had a good solder connection. So that's done. But yeah, out of the whole thing, this is the most fiddliest. Why they didn't make a bigger footprint, and you could just, why they make a bigger footprint for this, And you know, they've got plenty of room here. Even stagger them, and you could actually solder them in yourself and just jumper wires. I don't know, but yeah, that's a pain in the neck to do, is that. But it was only on these 2 pins down here, 1 and 2, which I had the issue. Maybe it was the solder mask on this board wasn't quite right. So as I say, these are cheaper boards, so whether it was the issue with these boards because they're cheaper, who knows. But anyway, those are all on there. So I need to sort out the beagle bone to see what I need for the other side. I'm not sure if it's a socket or a header pin that I've got to go on those, but I think the board deserves a really good clean, and I'm going to do that and pop the ICs in it, and I'll come back to you and we'll just have a little bit of a wrap up with the board, with this board so far, and where we're going to next with it. Alright guys, so I'll see you shortly. Alright guys, we're back now. So that's all cleaned up. It all looks good. I've got these away from the board a little bit. I'm just thinking whether I'd run a bit of double-sided tape under there, stick it to the board, and then these will stick to the back of it. It's just a bit of cushioning, so if they get banged, they're not going to puncture and short. But anyway, yeah, might do that, eh? Just pop a little bit of that. So we'll pop these up a wee bit. A bit of this. And this stuff you can get everywhere. I buy this stuff from the what we call the $2 shop, which is some people call it the Chinese shop and things like that. And that's basically a shop where you can pick up stuff that's cheap, and you do get what you pay for too. So just remember that. So, but this stuff tends to be okay. I just got to try and get the top off, but it doesn't want to play ball. But anyway, and we got it. So it's the same place I get all my cleaning brushes from and things like that. So what I've done is I've just stuck that down there. I've taken the other sticky side off. As you can see, that'll cushion anything trying to puncture through. Now I'll just bend these back over, line them up a little bit, and push them down into that. And they should sit there quite happily. So when it's sitting up, so it's up the right way and that, those are not going to puncture into anything. So that'll be good. Right, so we have that. So the IC, so this is our ROM chip. And this, I'm not 100% sure we've got to program it before it goes into the board, or whether it gets programmed in the board from the beagle bone. And that's what we need to look at doing in the third part of this. But for now, I'll just pop it into here so we know where it is. And as I was saying before, the ICs, when you get them, are splayed wider than the sockets. And that's what these little tools are for that I was telling you about. So you get your IC, you stick it on the middle pin. This is for the small ICs, and as I said, the other one's for the bigger ones. You put it on there, just hold it down with your thumb, and then you just squeeze these two sides together. And they squeeze in, and what that does is this is the exact width that these need to be to go into the sockets. So by squeezing that in, that just straightens the pins up. Then we can take this, and that'll just pop down into the socket nice and easy. And that's what I say. These you can get off Thingiverse. If I remember, I'll put another link to them in the description of the video for you. But this is the small one, and this is the large one. There's also a leg bender for bending the legs of your resistors and diodes and things like that, fuses and things like that. I didn't have one on hand to show you, but I'll put that in there as well. The link in that is there as well, because they're really handy tools to have when you're doing stuff. So anyway, we will now go along. We've got these two of the 220 pin. So we've done that one. So that's the number 3. Oh, get the right pen, he says. If I can find where I've put it, I will. Oh, dropped it. Okay, so that's the 8 pin, which we've done. We've done the super caps. They're done. So the next one is, these are the 20 pins, which are the, well, we've done the the transistors. We've done the inverter. So these are the two. What one was that? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh yes, we've done that 3-pin header. That one's been done. So right, so this is the one we're doing now, which is U2 and U5. So try and get the tape off one end of this. Right. So we're doing U2 and U5. And of course I picked the end they've cut, which is the hardest thing to get them out of. I'll pop this pin out, I think, and we'll push them through. Right. So we'll put them on our pin straightener, drop it in there, and then squeeze it together. That'll line our pins up. And we just make sure we've got it going the right way around in the sockets, which is that way. Yeah. This next one. And this one, go that way, pin one up there. Is that one done? Put that back in there so we don't lose it. And they're always good to hang on to these plastic connector, these boxes that they come in, the tubes, sorry, that they come in. They're always good to hang on to, because if you get the odd one that you need to send somewhere, or if someone's looking for one, you got a protective tube to put it in to send it to them. And if you don't have the pin, you can just wrap tape around the ends. Alright, and there we are. So we have all of our ICs in. The only thing I have to put in is the diode and the beagle bone. So that's got to come off. And the diode you can put in can be any diode, any colour you like. I do have a pile of red ones, but I sort of think I might put something else in. I've got some other coloured ones kicking around. I've got yellow and violet and blue and green, white, pink. So I might have a think on it, because that's the only thing I've got left to put in here other than the beagle bone. So I might look at putting a slightly different colour LED in here. I have a box with a whole pile of brand new ones in it, so I will I'll dig one of those out and put one in, I think. But other than that, we need to go through the documentation, which I think will be on the next video we will do, to work out our jumper selections for drives, etc. This is for a power header, for power, if you're not going to use a PC power supply. These 3-pin jumper down by the power supply, you'll notice it's got caps and it's got drain and fill. This is so the caps don't stay charged after you're finished with them. So what you can do is you put the jumper, the middle one and the top one, on drain, and that discharges the capacitors so they're not full and potentially going to give you a belt. When you're going to use it, normally you put it between the middle one and fill, and that charges the capacitors up. That much I know. So we need to see what P4 does. I think the 5 volt, 3.3 volt and the ground are just test points for what you're going to do with the board. I don't think the BeagleBone uses them. I think they're just extra headers for testing. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it is. But I think, yeah, we need to look at the documentation and find out what the drive select and what P4 is for, and if there's anything else we have to jumper on this board. Oh, the right. I know there's something about the right, and I think that is for writing the image onto the machine, and that could be what the EEPROM is for. It's 512k or 512 meg EEPROM. That might be for storage, because it could be an electrical, I think it is, erasable one, and via the BeagleBone we can wipe it and store to it, copy them off there into an archive image, and then clear it. We could put a different one on to run it on a different machine with a different image. So that could be what it is. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have a look in the documentation. Alright guys, so I think that's pretty cool where we're up to at the moment. The board's pretty much built. We've just got the BeagleBone to go onto here, and as I say, I need to look up the documentation to find out if we need to program it first and then it gets plugged in, or whether we can do it on the board. But I will have a look at that and see what way around we have to do it. So I will do that before we come in to do the next video for you, just so I've got a bit of a heads up on it and we know what direction we're going in. And I think that's a wrap for us. Yeah, why not? So guys, there we go. We've gotten the board built pretty much. There's just the BeagleBone and the LED to go on, and the LED is just an indicator for the drive, I think, or the power, one or the other. Next part will be sorting out the BeagleBone and going through the documentation to see what we need to do next, and whether it is programming off or on the board. And then once we got that done, I think there's a couple of tests we can do to check it out. Once that is done, probably look at hooking up that hard drive out of the bond well and see if we can read it. That would be interesting. So anyway, I think that's where we're up to, and I hope you enjoyed this one so far. It's not fast-paced action. Anyway, guys, I'm leaving it here, and we'll be a part 3, and hopefully we'll be backing up a hard drive to make an image of it, which will be pretty cool. So, as I always say, have a great day, have a great week. Till next time, ciao.